Hey everybody, and welcome back to Backlog Crew, our book club for video games. My name is Kurt, and I am here with John
Hello, hello.
and Ryder. We are here to record the second part of our Metal Gear Solid 2 discussion. Full transparency, it's been about 7 months between the first episode and this recording because of just life, personal life, work, etc. So here we are. But we're back into it. We have tried to kind of catch back up. John, you played through this section yesterday, so good idea. Waiting till the last minute.
And this morning.
And this morning, perfect. So John, we're gonna lean on
Procrastination
you
pays off.
for kind of the gameplay feel. Um, but to set everything back up, we are starting at the plant in Metal Gear Solid 2. So we did the tanker section where you play as Solid Snake. He sneaks on board a ship that's it's in New York. Where is it? New York. Doesn't
Hudson
matter.
Bay.
Yeah, Hudson Bay. Um, and he finds evidence of a new Metal Gear, the Metal Gear Ray, and he gets some photographs of it. And then he gets caught. Revolver explodes, and Snake is presumed dead. This leads us to a 2-year time skip where we are playing as someone else who's named Snake for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they start calling him Raiden, who's going to be our protagonist for the rest of this game. He is on the plant, which was set up where the tanker blew up. So, the idea is that there was like an oil spill that happened because the tanker blew up, and so they set this up to keep it contained so it wouldn't pollute the bay. But as we play, we realize that is not at all what's happening.
Yep. If I'm not mistaken, when it starts, there's a chain link fence in the water, and that's not going to keep oil in it. That was the equivalent, right? In the cinematic.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm checking my notes. So the Big Shell is what the plant is called.
Mhm.
Has been seized by former members of the Navy SEAL Special Anti-Terrorist Training Squad, which is called Dead Cell. And they are working with the Russian private army members of kind of the remnants of the team that were kind of the antagonist on the tanker 2 years ago.
Mhm.
They are demanding $30 billion to not kill hostages. They have also taken the president and a conservationist. I wrote that down, so he'll probably pop up at some point. If the demands are not met, the terrorists will blow up the Big Shell, wipe out the bay's ecosystem, and create the worst environmental disaster in history. So,
Yeah.
Been global
Yeah.
warming.
I was going to say,
Well,
doesn't it wouldn't it affect the
Second
whole
one.
ocean because the Hudson Bay is connected, right?
oh yeah, it would definitely affect more than just the bay. So the colonel who's working with Raiden, both of them are apparently working for Foxhound, which were the antagonists of the first game. They infiltrate the Big Shell with the goal of saving the president of the hostages, disarming the terrorist, and also a Navy SEAL Team 10 is there to help out, but they are not coordinating together. They're like separately going in for
Yeah.
kind of the same purpose.
We're in a covert operation.
So, and then one more follow up. Raiden's real name is Jack. We also learned that in kind of the opening scrawl of all this.
So yeah, it goes from Snake, Raiden, and then we know his name's Jack.
Yeah. So is all that setup montage out of the way? I think this is a really interesting plot so far. The transition from Snake to now Raiden. I know that this was a big deal when the game first launched because I don't think that was advertised at all. Anytime they showed gameplay, they only showed Snake. And so I know it was. I think it was kind of divisive at the time with Raiden going on being the main character.
I think that this game has seen a lot of the same, I don't want to go as far as calling it revisionist history, but like a renewed interest and maybe just more open-mindedness toward it, that something like Fallout New Vegas and Pokemon Black and White did, where like
Mhm.
at the time these games came out and were just I'm not even going to say divisive, largely disliked because of these. I can go on with the other two examples, but specifically this, yeah, that was a huge issue because people wanted to play as Solid Snake, and they feel like the rug was ripped out from underneath them because the game starts as Solid Snake and then he, like you say, dies. And I think within the last like I'd say 5 to 6 years, maybe even closer to a decade, this game is I think seen a very positive turn in opinion, and I don't think people feel as negatively about it. But I think between time and the fact there's so many other games, and as we'll talk about probably a little bit later, maybe some the relevancy of these stories, um, I think that public opinion is much more positive now.
John, were you aware that you were not going to be playing a snake in this game?
Not at all. No.
So how was that for you as a first time Switch?
I was a little confused because at the beginning they were calling him Snake, but then you learn it's also his first real mission, and they immediately change his code name when he starts the mission. So I was wondering why they ever called him Snake in the first place. I'm sure there's a reason,
Yeah.
but I was not going into this expecting to continue playing as the same character, but when I started as him, I was like, okay, cool. So, but
Yeah. You didn't punch a hole in your computer and type a paragraph online about it.
I thought about typing a paragraph online, but I couldn't. I think those forums have long shut down at this point.
I,
It reminds. Oh, go ahead.
I was to say real quick on the snake thing. This might like, it might have been discussed, and there's so many cutscenes, so much dialogue. It's very possible I've
Yes,
just forgotten it. But I can in my brain, I was thinking the reasoning for the snake name being used and then kind of thrown away is that comparing it to like another huge pop culture phenomenon. This is like one of the biggest names, Metal Gear Solid and Snake in video games, right? Flipping it to like
James
cinema, like
Bond.
what is that? James Bond,
Okay,
right? Exactly.
got you.
And so I think of it as like James Bond 007, where like the face changes, but the name stays the same, and you can in your own brain. There's tons of theories about how some of the 007 movies are set in the same universe. Sometimes there's carryover between cast members, despite James Bond himself changing because the name continues to live on, um, while the agent himself might change. That was kind of the way I looked at
Like
that.
Batman. Okay.
Exactly, like
Uh,
Batman.
that's a really neat idea. To be honest, I kind of assumed we were eventually going to get like a big reveal at the end. That was kind of a like a Final Fantasy VII esque. Oh, the protagonist is not who he thought he was, kind of deal. Um, and maybe that'll come, but I don't know. We'll see. Um, but you were talking about how like public opinion has changed on this. I definitely agree with that because I feel like early on when I was on the internet reading about games, people were like Metal Gear Solid 3 is the best, and then 5 came out, and whether or not it's recency bias or just people prefer that game or a bigger crowd, it's like, oh, five's the best. And like you said, in the last 5+ years, it's been more leaning back to Metal Gear Solid 2. And I think people nowadays are kind of more open to a shakeup like that because
Mhm.
I don't want to spoil the game, but there has been a big game recently that has been very successful that has a similar like this is the protagonist and then you play it for a few hours. Just kidding, that's not the protagonist. Here's the protagonist kind of deal. And so I think that's a really cool kind of way to tell a story. And this is one of the first games to do that.
I
John,
know
don't
the
think about
game,
it too hard. Don't think about it too hard.
and that one's not gonna get a redemption later though. No one's gonna come back and be like, "I like that one now." No one's gonna do that.
I don't know if we're talking about the same game because
Probably not.
everybody's already like we love this game. So I don't know if we're talking about the same
Oh,
thing.
we're not then.
Okay, we'll talk about it off camera because I don't want to spoil the game I'm talking about.
I think I know one of these two games. So we're all thinking about different games right now.
That's funny.
Ryder's like Super Mario World.
Yeah.
All right. Um.
Super Mario, where you actually play as Wario, the first Wario Land, right? That's a perfect example.
Yeah,
Right?
that's it. That's the exact. That's what I was thinking of, John. Is that what you were thinking of?
No.
So once we finally get to play this game, it's literally like the second room that Raiden clears, you see who we know to be Solid Snake getting on the elevator and going up. And Ryan's like, I have no idea who that guy is. By the way, Solid Snake, pretty cool dude. Anyway, I wonder who that guy was. Um, and then, sorry, I'm trying to read through all my notes. John, did you recognize that that was Snake again?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You were like, okay, so he's not actually dead. I guess that's important to talk about, that he faked his death.
There's a whole other like conversation there about like looking back in retrospect, and of course I know like David Hayter's voice and all this stuff, so like it's not really crazy to me to be like, that's just Snake. But I do wonder, like, 20 years ago, was anybody actually like scratching their head or like confused at all? For
True.
somebody who had like never played the first game and their context was just this one, then maybe they might have
Yeah.
forgotten or not realized it. But like his face is iconic at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, but like
Suddenly,
half the people in these games come back to life. So I mean, why would it be surprising if he did?
and
True.
they literally, like, in basically the next room, there's a fight with a guy named Vamp. There's a
Hmm.
cutscene
Hmm.
who is apparently a vampire, and I'm super down for it. I think the name Vamp is kind of silly, but Raiden kind of gets saved by a Navy SEAL who introduces himself as Iroquois Pliskin, and he like takes his mask off, very clearly the same face as the character you played as 30 minutes ago,
Hmm.
and it also pops up just like every character with the credits where it says Pliskin David Hayter, and so it's like even if you were like not sure if you remembered the voice or not, it just blatantly tells you. Which I don't think it's supposed to be a secret. I just think it's very funny that the protagonist has no idea what's happening when the like who that is when the game is making every effort to be like this is the same guy. Remember that, right?
And then he's like,
But
I think
"And you're in Foxhound." He's like, "What's Foxhound? Foxhound doesn't exist."
Foxhound shut down. What are you talking about?
I think that's like a cool. I don't really know when to like bring this up, so I guess I'll start like now.
Whenever, go for it.
It's a trend throughout, right? That it has to be intentional to some extent. That like Raiden is he's new and he's green, and initially, you can chalk up some of his like confusion and head scratching to him just like being thrown in. This is his first real mission, right? But the longer this goes on, at least as a player, and then eventually towards the end of our session here, the more you start to see it from Raiden, there's something's wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like the information, like every single person you talk to has a different perspective. And initially, again, you can chalk that up to like, oh, the SEAL team's doing this, and then I'm doing this, and like these teams have intentionally been kept in the dark to keep the overlap from or leaks from happening, that type of stuff. But the further in you get, the more the the water starts to become muddied, and it's harder to justify events and him not understanding things because eventually you start to think, I don't know, it seems like there's maybe some lying going on here. And I think you kind of started that earlier with the whole idea of the ransom and
The
the
Colonel tells you about the ransom as well. He's the one.
Yeah, and then eventually, like at the end of this, or not even at the end of this, but like throughout it, uh, Raiden does say like, "Colonel, what's happening? I'm clearly not getting all the information." And every single time, Colonel's like, "No time. You got to save the president." And Raiden's just like, "I guess so. I'll go do that." So I'm very excited for the third act of this, for everything to kind of unfold. Um, we saw Vamp. We also are introduced to Fortune,
Mhm.
who can't die and really, really wants to. Like her power seems to be that bullets curve around her, and I'm just, do we think that's, bless you? Like, do these characters have superpowers? Does she have some kind of magnetic nonsense? Is she like Domino from Marvel Comics, where she's just super lucky, but she's like mad about how her luck works for her? Do we have thoughts? No clue.
I have no clue. I mean, it just Wayne, not Wayne, goodness, wacky, zany. That's the new word, Wayne, Wayne stuff, man. I
I
think it's
mean,
just fun, over the top ridiculousness, and
I mean, we got a
I'm sure that
vampire.
everyone has some explanation.
We got people coming back from the dead. We got someone who can't die, and then who knows who else we'll have soon. We might even have someone running around on rollerblades.
I guess I'm going into this game taking it a little too seriously because I
Yeah, that's
forget
the
that in the
trick.
first game there was a psychic character who was one of the bosses, and so I'm looking for like a justification, but really they just have powers, and that's government experimenting or whatever led to them to that.
Don't
But I
forget
will
we
say
got.
though, like,
Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, well, you also got the guy throwing around revolvers and dodging attacks with his revolvers. He can dodge bullets. I mean,
I feel like it's just a consistent thread throughout these games without like spoiling anything. Like later games, like it continues, but I will say that this game is somehow more over the top than the others, and I think it's fun. But the others do have like and later in the series have very serious moments, and this game does too. But it's so weird having the combination of like almost like comic book villains,
yeah,
um, like Morbius. Yeah, we got Morbius in the game,
it's
and
Morbin
then it's like
time.
the
It's pretty
super,
intense.
high budget blockbustery elements as well. I don't know. It is really weird. It'd be like dropping like comic book villains in the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy
Hmm.
almost, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
get what you're
It's
saying.
it's just like it's a weird combination, but somehow it takes itself so seriously that it works. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's like this is an allegory for nuclear war. Also, this vampire just sprinted across the ocean, and I love that about it, honestly.
It's
And
so stupid.
they animated him running so fast, like it wasn't just like, oh, he can run in water. It was
Yeah.
like the Flash. It was awesome. Anyway, we'll get to that, I guess. Um, so these are the members of Dead Cell. We have Vamp, we have Fortune, and then the last one who we don't see yet is Fat Man, and he really did not look out with the names because Fortune's a great name. Vamp is fine, I guess. Fat Man's not a great name.
So call me crazy. Is that why we have that gun in Fallout? Is that the reason? Batman?
It's named after the one of the bombs
Oh, is
that's
it?
dropped on
Okay. Well,
Japan.
apparently he is too. Honestly, I forgot.
Which
I
that's what I
knew
was
that
gonna
at one
say.
point.
Definitely what
You
the reference is.
uneducated plebeian. What? Sorry.
I think it's both like yeah the guy's fat but also like because he's a
Yeah.
bomber he's
Mm,
named after one of the atomic bombs.
it's a double reference.
Hmm. Batman would
Um, Vamp recognizes Snake. No clue who Raiden is, but he recognizes Snake, and he's about to potentially kill them both. But then Fortune calls him and says, "Hey, come over here," and so he just leaves. That happens a few times where our protagonists are definitely about to lose, and then the villain gets a phone call and then just walks away because they're like, "Oh, I got to take this. Hold on."
It's just because we're so beneath them.
survive. Exactly, not worth the effort. I don't know. I appreciate that Raiden kind of sucks. That's one thing
Mhm.
that I really like throughout this is that it's gameplay wise, like honestly, not that big of a difference between like the things that kill you in the first game versus this game.
Mhm.
But I do feel like the story makes a good point of making Raiden just feel more inexperienced.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And it's hard for me to like kind of explain that, but like I don't feel like he's, world saving superhero level of Solid Snake from the first game.
Well, it's a really good setup for a sequel because a lot of
Hmm.
times in like Metroid or God of War or pretty much every sequel franchise, they're like, all right, second game starts, you're weak now. You got to get
Hmm.
strong again. And narratively, that doesn't really make sense, and we just kind of let go. But in this case, it does make sense
Mhm.
because we find out this is Raiden's first mission, like you said, John. And then when he's talking to Pliskin, Snake in this instance, he says that he's been trained in VR simulations, and he's really kind of cocky about it. Raiden's like, "Yeah, this is just as good as real experience." Um, and Snake says that's what they want you to think because it takes the fear away from the battlefield. And then the quote I wrote down was, "War is a video game. What better way to make the ultimate soldier?" And
That's pretty good. They could make a book about that or something.
Hmm.
It just it makes me think about like Call of Duty and things like
Mm.
that. And I know that those games, like I know that people have fun with those games, but it's not my kind of game. And I'm controversial take, not a big fan of war. It just it's hard to play those
What
games
are you, the Pope or something?
and I'm sorry, I'll stay out of
He doesn't like them
politics.
because he's played one, you play them all. You know, war never changes.
Oh,
Uh,
oh. So many references. Sorry,
so
keep
many
going.
references. No, you're good. I'm kind of stumbling around my point. I guess it's just like yes, this game is about war and guns and stuff, but it has a take on those. It's like trying to present a message about those topics and not just being. It's not one of those games where teenage boys are gonna play it and be like, "This is so cool. Wouldn't it be cool if we were actually in XYZ shooting these guns?" You know, and I'm not saying every single person who plays Call of Duty does that, but I have had that conversation with students of mine who were like, "Yeah, I'm so good at Call of Duty. When I turn 18, I'm gonna join the military." And I'm just like, "You don't,
It's made me want
you
to start
don't,
smoking
you know."
again.
Say that
Exactly.
again. Say
It's
what?
made me want to start smoking again. You know.
I think that
um,
there's actually a like larger like point there, and I think that this is like on track for this game too. I think it's like largely like media literacy, which is a problem too, because there are games like I do enjoy Call of Duty, but like, and not all of them do this, but some of the campaigns very much do have like a strong point to them that I'm not going to say is entirely like anti-war, but more like more nuance than just shoot and kill. But I think of something like, yeah, you can look at Call of Duty in that conversation you just said, but like transitioning to a different media, something like Fight Club, where like the point just completely goes over people's
yeah,
heads, and they're just like, yeah, fighting is cool, and being hyper violent and a militant, hateful man is awesome. And it's like that's actually
yeah,
the exact opposite of what the movie is trying to preach, but like, and I feel like some of this in this game can also be seen in like other games in the series down the line, where like some of the machismo elements and stuff like that, and like there's like some direct criticisms of communism in like later games that are like not necessarily supposed to be taken entirely literally. There's nuance in all of this that I feel like can be missed. We'll keep going.
yeah. You're good. Talking with Pliskin, he says we need to go find Peter Stillman, who is a former NYPD explosives expert who came in with SEAL Team 10, which has now been wiped out because
Hmm.
Fortune can dodge bullets.
Yeah.
Uh, Stillman trained Fat Man, and then Fat Man went rogue, and so he's like, "We got to disarm these bombs." So we find out that there are 6 bombs on shell one, and then there's a bridge, and then there's 6 bombs on shell two. So Pliskin goes to shell two while Raiden handles the bombs that are on shell one. We are giving a, basically a can of compressed air that we can spray on the bombs to freeze them so that they won't explode. Um, so again, I haven't actually played this section in 7 months. I remember not having too much
Well,
trouble with it because they give you a sensor to find the bombs,
mhm.
and I enjoyed kind of exploring and getting to know the environment.
This is where I picked up
Yeah,
yesterday.
go for it, John.
So basically, you have a central column or ring for the oil rig you're on. I don't know that actual term
For
for
the
it.
shell one.
Right, and then it has basically nine circles around it. Was it nine, eight?
I
It's a
don't know.
certain number of bomb, whatever the
A
number of
number
bombs was.
of stops along the way. I
Right.
think it might just be 6. I think it's a hexagon.
Okay, so there were six. So basically, you just had to do a big loop around, go through each area, and find the hidden bombs in each area. And then your map would actually help you remember where you were if you stopped for 9 months for some reason. It would put a big B in each of the circles to let you know there was still a bomb there for you to do, in case you do exactly half and then do the other half later. Um, for some reason, the most important part of this area though was Warehouse F, because you end up going through that one the most because it's right next to where you get to the center ring.
Hmm.
But it also has level 2 and level 3 security doors on it that give you
Mhm.
additional weaponry to use throughout. But yeah, I just remember at one point, just throwing in an anecdote here, was I got seen in this warehouse after I got the level 2 access card, so I was just running into doors to hide, and I ran into a room that had sensors that you could only see with like certain goggles, and I walked through them, and the whole room exploded, all because I wanted to run from people chasing me, and it scared me. So, so be careful just running directly into rooms. You never know if they're armed with C4. But yeah, just having to hunt through this facility. I remember at one point just really hitting my head against the wall trying to find where these were hidden at. Some of them are well hidden.
Mm.
But
Is
it's
there one
lucky
that
the
stood out
areas
to
are
you?
all pretty concise and small, so you just keep searching around. Eventually, you can find it.
I think the most frustrating thing for me in this was trying to like dodge the guards. Well, I mean
Hmm.
that's like the whole point of the game. But after like running in circles, if you spend long enough in like one of these areas, that eventually it starts to get to where the fun wears off. And it was only like
Right.
once or twice I remember it happening. But the big thing is like if you can search without being caught, it wasn't that big of a deal. But if you happen to get caught, then you'd have to go through the whole chase, and let the timer go down. And so it just extends out something that could have been done in 5 minutes into like a
Hmm.
15-minute
Yep.
adventure because you're having to run away, hide, and then backtrack and then hope you don't get caught again. And trying to memorize guard patterns and stuff. And the biggest thing for me, and this is just a continued issue with all of these games, and that's part of the fun, is if you try to do things non-violent, and shooting people with like tranquilizers and knocking people out with like close quarters combat and stuff like one, it only lasts for so long, and
Hmm.
two, if you set off the alarms, any of those guys that you happen to have in any sort of pathway or walkway where the guard's going to run through, they're going to
Right.
be woken back up, and so like you have to redo it again. So it just, getting caught once cascades into a bigger problem. Which the argument there is just don't get caught and you're fine, right?
And additionally, if you're in the area too long, having knocked everyone out, it's like you haven't done your 30-second check-in.
Yep.
Send more.
Yep.
Yeah, you really have to move quickly and intentionally through this section. I was having a ton of trouble with it, and I remember now about halfway through, I realized or I remembered that you could aim in first person.
Hmm.
And so, I would sneak up behind a guard and just do like the top down shooting, which you can't aim at their head, which if you hit them in the head, it's like an instant knockout.
Hmm.
If you just do top down, it just kind of hits their body wherever. And so I'd be with my trank gun, I'd be like, bang them, bang them, bang them, bang 'em. And so I'd just be constantly out of ammo. Sometimes they'd turn around and see me and yell before they actually got knocked out. Uh, so I everything felt great once I realized I could aim in first person and shoot these one at a time. Because at that point, I had, like you said, Ryder, kind of memorized the guards, like patterns and the layouts of the rooms, because I actually been struggling to get through them so much. Um, Trying to knock people out and then accidentally snapping their necks. Oops, my bad. It happens. Um, did y'all want to say anything more about the disarming the bomb section?
I,
Um,
this is go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the key things that is a struggle is when if you happen to take 9 months between the first half and the second half, if you forget how to use the spray,
Uh
it's
huh.
pulled up on the right trigger,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's such an odd way to use it. And so it took me a while to remember that's how you did it because I kept clicking R, and then every now and again I get a little spritz,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Well, what am I doing wrong?" And it's because you had to hold it up to spray.
Mm.
I
So,
always forget that this era of like early PS2, GameCube, Xbox, like original, was the end of kind of the Wild West of control schemes because just nothing was finalized, nothing was set in stone. Like nowadays, if you're playing a game, the attack button's either going to be the left like square or it's going to be one of the triggers
mhm.
or shoulder buttons. But back then, they're like, yeah, the right stick, that's the spray button. Why not?
And I kept doing that whenever I was trying to use like one of the guns in the game. I would be like, first person zoomed in, and then I clicked the back trigger button, and it
Hmm.
would put the gun away instead of shoot. Because I'm so
Yeah,
used to games now, the back right trigger button is shoot, and so I
right.
just kept getting annoyed because of myself forgetting the shoot button.
I remember multiple points during this section trying to. I don't remember what I was trying to do at this point because it's been long enough. But playing on Xbox for it was a 360 Metal Gear Solid collection. Um, so I think the control scheme is probably relatively similar to anything else because it's relatively modern. But for some reason, the controls throughout this entire game, and it's just because it's old, just constantly gave me issues, and I had hard time memorizing anything. And
Yeah.
there were multiple points where I would cartwheel out in front of somebody when I was
Yeah.
trying to I think a lot of times when I was trying to squat or something like that, or get into some sort of cover, and I just go
It's because you have
like,
to
out in front
stand
of somebody.
still. You have to stand still to squat, so you have to quit moving. And I'm not used to that.
And if not, is that how you cartwheel?
Yes,
You're like turn
it's the
okay,
same
that's
button.
probably what it was then. Yeah, okay.
Additionally,
I
having-
remember that happening multiple times.
if you try to vault something in this game, you have to be standing still as well. Because if you walk up, if you're walking toward it and then click the vault button, he just hides next to it. And so I've done that so many times. I got caught by guards doing that because you have to stand still and then click the vault button for him to climb things.
I kind of had the opposite of issue of you, Ryder, because I would, if I ever got caught and knew I couldn't really make it out, I found that cartwheeling away was the safest option because it was fast and it was harder to hit you. And so I'd be like, oh, I got a cartwheel. And then he would just lay down on the ground. And then they would just be putting bullets in me while I'm laying there. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Oh.
I did notice a fun detail. When you try to cartwheel upstairs, he falls over. If you can cartwheel downstairs though. Also, have you seen him sneak upstairs? He literally does this with his hands, walking up the stairs tip tap, tip tap, tip tap. Quite funny.
To quote Raiden, this is a sneaking mission.
True.
He says that many times, and it's really funny every single time. Because I don't know, the cover of the box says, or no, it says, what does it say? Tactical espionage action.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say it says stealth, which it doesn't, but the word you're looking for is stealth. This is a stealth mission. But every time they're this is a sneaking mission. This is your sneaking suit.
They even say sneaking suit in this one too, and I laughed when I heard
It's
it.
great.
Yeah.
I hope they say it in every single game. I hope they realize how funny it sounds.
Sneaking.
All right, so we're in the process of disarming the bombs. Stillman realizes that where the bombs are on the shells wouldn't actually destroy the shells, which you would think would be Fat Man's whole plan to destroy the cells, or the shells rather. But then Snake finds an additional bomb that's at the base of Strut H, and he realizes oh, there are two other bombs that are actually the ones we need to be worrying about.
Big bombs.
Yes. So Stillman goes to disarm that one himself, and this is where we get a big
Surprise.
top story. Doesn't feel
Well,
generous enough, but Stillman's whole thing is oh yeah, I'm grizzled and I have a prosthetic leg because I was involved in, I think a Fat Man exploded a church and I got hurt on my way out. And then at this point he's just kidding, I
can run fine.
Yeah, I'm fine, my leg works, I can run, but I blame myself for that church getting blown up. And so I pretended to have a bum leg so I could also be a victim instead of having to take responsibility for my actions. Which, I don't know, it sounds kind of funny when you say it like that, but in the moment I was like, oh, this is compelling. There's something there about not wanting to deal with the guilt and the consequences, and instead trying to make your own self a martyr so that you can still feel good about what you've done. But anyway,
is it at this point that we learn that freezing all of the bombs actually makes a bigger one prime?
Yeah. So it's right after this conversation.
Okay.
We continue freezing our little bombs. Stillman goes down to Strut H, and he's something weird about this bomb, not sure what it is. And then he's I don't know what's going to set it off. And then a Snake calls in and says, hey, I'm going to finish stopping this last bomb. And then Stillman says, wait. And he realizes that stopping the small bombs is what's going to set off the big bombs. So Stillman defuses the big bomb, and then you're playing as Raiden, you have a 400-second timer to get to the base of strut A to disarm the bomb that's there. Did you guys have any trouble with that section?
No, I ran back pretty quickly. I had over half the time left, if I'm not mistaken. This is where my game crashed after that cutscene, though. Whenever you grab the, like, whenever you get to the end of the timer, and that's when my game crashed. So I got to do this part twice.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I misspoke earlier. Stillman did not successfully defuse the bomb at strut H on the other side. So it explodes, presumably killing him. And
I was trying to remember. I thought one of them, yeah.
Yeah, yes. My bad. That was my next bullet point on my notes. So yeah, the colonel calls in after the explosion. It's like, hey, strut H has been destroyed. Shell 2 is flooded. The oil in the water is on fire. But overall, the big shell is stable, but the chemicals that were here were now leaking out into the surrounding bay. So there was some element of biochemical containment, even if that wasn't the main mission of what the shells were built for. We haven't gotten to go to Shell 2 yet. I hope that we actually get to explore it, and we get to like kind of explore a like falling apart, half exploded version of Shell 1 that we've already kind of done, rather than them presenting us the big map and then saying, actually that one's destroyed, so you can't go there anyway. I don't think they're going to do that, but I hope we get to explore Shell 2.
Yeah,
I feel like we will. Right? Just we've done a lot of at this point. We've done a lot of backtracking through this area, and I feel like it makes sense to me that it has to progress to the next half. Whether it's the environmental damage is bad or not environmental in the perspective of like the shell itself on fire and having missing panels and blowing out walls and stuff. I don't know. But I feel like we're going to have to see the second half to progress the game.
Did you guys call Rose a lot? I don't know if we've talked about Rose yet.
We have not, actually.
We haven't talked about her, but yeah, I would save quite a bit. And he talks and talks. That's all I got.
Women, right? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Didn't make that joke. That was Ryder. So Rose is Jack's partner, boyfriend, fiance. It's non-specific, serious relationship.
He seems kind of aloof.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like she's more interested in him than I'm not saying he's disinterested, but more like she keeps, from my memory, prodding, kind of pushing towards the idea of them being something more than he realizes. I don't know if y'all got that vibe.
Yeah. At one point, she's even like, "Hey, do you know what today is?" And he's like, "No." She goes, "Oh, okay."
He says, April 29th. And she's like, fine, okay. Yeah, we still don't know what tomorrow is because she says, I'm going to let you figure it out yourself. And Ryden, I got to tell you, that is a trap, my man. You got to figure that out real fast.
It's already over at this point. He should have known it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So it's disrespectful to him, honestly.
So there's clearly like some amount of like his memory is not what it should be, because they bring Rose in for this mission because she's not a part of the team normally, but because she knows Raiden the best, and that's when they brought her in to take the place of someone they say got injured.
I thought they were just copying the first game because Snake has issues remembering things, and then his person that helps him save the game also does similar things to him, so I thought it was just like to copy that.
Maybe. What do you mean by trouble remembering things, though?
I thought wasn't he very forgetful or something in the first game?
I feel like there's like a plot device there where like they're like those characters were used to remind him of things in game, but it was more like a meta fourth wall breaking thing for the player to remember what they were doing. But I feel like in this game it takes that to a further level where I kind of agree with Kurt. Like, to me, Raiden seems to be, like I said earlier, like at the very least uninformed, but pushing past that seems to be like there are things that he should know that he
Hmm.
cannot remember because the game makes a point to. I feel like in the original game, Snape would be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot that." But this game, Dryden's like, "No, I do not know what you're
He's like,
referring
what's
to
going
right now."
on?
Yeah, and he's constantly every time he's talking to somebody, he's having to ask, "What are you referring to? What is this?
Yeah.
What is that?" And there's a moment that
Okay.
comes up a little bit later we can talk about that I think kind of pushes even further into that. But keep going.
But he does have like some memories because Rose, whenever you call to save, Rose at one point is like, "Hey, do you remember when we first met?" And Raiden is able to tell the whole story about, oh, they met in the park. There's someone was asking about, hey, did was it King Kong? Yeah, King's
Sounds right.
King Kong climbed this tower, that tower, and one of them says it was Empire State Building. One said it was the Chrysler Building, and then they stayed up all night watching the movies together, and they turned out they worked at the same place. So like he does have some memories of his past that at least through Rose's lens are accurate. But like you were saying, Ryder, he has no idea of what's currently going on and seems to have a big gap in his memory.
And I feel like again, I just the vibes are wrong, man. Something's going on, and like part of me feels like there's psychological warfare stuff going on. Like I don't feel like she's brought in almost hostage
Ooh.
type of thing, where like I feel like she's trying to allude to things like maybe she's there to help like keep him calm. He's a sleeper agent in some way. I feel like nothing is the way it should be, and there's again just more details that come up later that make me think like he's being lied to from multiple angles right now, and I feel like maybe she's also lying to him, but I feel like maybe she's like a handler
Mm-hmm.
almost, and she's
Hmm.
trying to like keep him calm and like level him so that he doesn't ask too many questions, or maybe the opposite. Maybe she's trying to push him out of it subliminally. I don't know.
And Snake even
She.
says, once they meet, he's like, basically that the simulations can be a form of mind control. So
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
possible.
She seems genuine to me though, because like when she's first introduced, the Colonel is like, by the way, you have to call him Raiden because that's his name for this mission. And she says, "Got it," and then winks at the camera, and then Colonel hangs up and he goes. She says, "Anyway, Jack, here's what we're gonna do," and just completely ignores basically every command she's given. She's like, "I don't technically work for these people. I'm just helping." So,
That's what I think. It could go either way. I think it could be that she's either trying to help him break out of whatever this is, but is like playing their game as much as she has to, or
mm-hmm.
the other side is she's in on it the whole way. I don't know. But also Jack and Rose, Titanic.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was gonna see if y'all had. I didn't put that
I
together
didn't catch it.
until several calls in.
Mm. There's also the Pliskin is Snake. Snake Plissken is from 1980s movie. My gosh, it's Kurt Russell. It's the entire character that is it Lost in New York or
Oh,
Escape from New York?
it's yeah, Escape from New York.
Yeah, Escape from New York. Yeah,
He
Lost in New York's Home
just looks
Alone.
like Solid Snake.
Yeah, yeah, that's the entire character he's based on. I wanted to talk about it at some point. There's no good time to talk about it. We've talked about it with the last video, and I know we talked about it in the original Metal Gear Solid, but I just feel like you really can feel the influence of like Western movies, not westerns, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
Western film in this. And I've always heard, you see in interviews, Hideo Kojima wanted to make movies. He didn't want to make video games, and I could just feel that throughout this entire movie. Like the influences from other movies, the slow mo camera, the over the top dialogues, the some of the way the scenes are staged. I mean, it looks like there's more intention behind just like a stagnant camera. Like the camera actually like do tracking shots and like zoom in slowly, and it's fun.
Yeah, very cinematic. I didn't know that about Pliskin. Thank you for sharing that. That's a fun fact. John, if you look up this character, like you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's Snake. It's just literally is him. Um, the next gameplay bit we get to is the Fortune boss fight,
Oh
and
yeah.
Fortune is yelling that Snake killed her dad. Is Fortune Vulcan Raven's daughter? Maybe.
Maybe. I
Maybe.
don't
Okay, we don't know.
know.
Cool.
I
That's
I was
that's the
trying
only
to
thing I
think.
could think of
Yeah, it does.
because
It does mention that she's somebody's daughter in a later scene. Yeah, I can't remember
yeah,
what it
and then
was.
she's like, "You killed my father," so I'm like, okay, well, probably referring to the first game. Probably not Psycho Mantis. Sniper Wolf is not, you know, a father. And they both have similar skin tone and the big giant gun backpack. So that's my guess, but I don't know.
I do think it's worth noting that there are two other Metal Gear games that are referenced very heavily in both this and the first game that none of us have played. Um,
Those being
Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2.
I like
Like
the
the
Vis
original.
console.
Yeah, I mean that's what the original game references. Like the entire plot of the original Metal Gear Solid is referencing Metal Gear and like events that like we didn't really have any context in. So I'm not saying she's a child of somebody from that, but like there are
Could be.
probably other things that are being brought up
I almost played
that
that
we
by
just.
mistake. I almost
That
played
would
Metal
have been
Gear
really
2.
funny. That would have been really funny if you
You'd
showed
be
me the
like, this
first
game
game.
was so difficult, it was not fun.
Didn't
Graphics
like the
suck.
pixel art.
Who are y'all talking about?
Cutscenes, what are you talking about?
uh, but let's see, this boss fight, it's like a air quotes boss fight because it's really just
Standing
survive.
around. Yeah.
Because basically she has a giant lightning gun and she'll shoot at you and destroy the environment. So you have to keep kind of dodging from cover to cover, and she's the whole time screaming like, "Give me a good death!" And you literally can't because anytime you shoot at her, the bullets curve around. Um, I tried placing like claymores for her to walk over, and I don't know if those can hurt her, but she never ended up walking over them before the fight ended. But did either of you land a single hit? Yeah, I didn't figure you're supposed to.
Pretty much just sat there and got
Yeah.
more and more frustrated as it went on, watching my rations be depleted every time I got
Yeah.
hit. So I'd try to do something like ballsy and be like, "Oh, I'm going to deal damage by doing, this thing I haven't tried." And then she shoots me, and I'll lose like all my health and use
Yeah.
2 ration kits in one go. So
Thankfully, those do respawn if you like use
they're
rations.
easier
You
to get
just
in this game.
yeah, for sure. The first game was rough. Um, but eventually, during the Fortune fight, Vamp shows up and is like, "Oh hey, Fortune, what's up? Got update on our orders." And then while they're talking, Raiden's like, "Gotcha," and tries to shoot Fortune in the face, and the bullet curves around her and hits Vamp in the center of the forehead.
It cracked me up. I was
Yeah.
giggling. I'm not gonna lie.
It was really funny. Because I didn't know he was gonna come back to life immediately after. So I was like, oh, that's just how that character dies. That's
Yeah.
hilarious. I love that. And it seems like Fortune is a little sad that Vamp is dead, but she's mostly just screaming like, that death was meant for me. Why can't I die? It's like, oh my gosh, girl, what happened to you?
It's The Incredibles. You ruined my death.
um, Raiden escapes, but then after Raiden escapes, Vamp wakes up, and she's like, "I thought you were dead." And he says, "Oh, I'm a vampire. I can't die twice." and then the cutscene ends. You're like, okay, so like, literally a vampire? I don't. Maybe so.
I mean, he
Does he
did.
have the teeth?
I
Have they
think
shown
so.
his teeth?
He drank blood off of a corpse at one point.
Oh yeah, he did do that.
I feel like I saw his teeth. Maybe I'm imagining that. I don't know.
And when he first finds like Pliskin slash Snake, he's like all up on his neck, like, "Oh, you smell familiar." So
He's actually a bloodhound. What it is.
The next thing I have on my notes is the Fat Man boss fight.
Yep.
Because after, let's see, I don't know if I wrote it down, but I know that after Stillman blows up, someone tells Raiden, I don't remember if it's Pliskin or the Colonel, like, "Hey, Fat Man's at the top of the shell. You gotta go stop him." And then you run into Fortune along the way.
He has
think
special
it's
mind
Colonel.
detector or something.
Yeah. I think we lose contact with Pliskin around this point, right? And there's like we're not sure if Pliskin is actually alive or not.
That would make sense since the show he was on exploded.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Fat Man boss fight, the big man in a trench coat with roller skates.
It's like it's a bomber,
Bomber
like
jacket.
not a bomber jacket because that's
Bomber
what
jacket.
plane pilots wear,
It's a
but it's
pilot.
an anti, like you see like
Anti-explosive
bomb crews.
jacket. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is the most Metal Gear Solid thing that we've seen yet, and I've played 3 of the later games, and this is still like probably the most Metal Gear Solid thing in any of them that I've seen. I love it.
That's
Crazy.
why it
Even
pissed me off. Okay, got it.
it's crazier
didn't
than
like
even
it?
the vampire. It was kind of frustrating.
It was
I
For like
frustrating.
controls.
Again, I'm 7 months removed from this boss fight, but my memories of it just make
So,
me like
have no
giggle
fear.
every time.
I did it 6 times yesterday. Have no fear. Yeah. And the only
Tell
reason
me
it
about it.
took that many tries is because there were a few times I got him, his health bar was gone, but you have to disarm all the bombs as well.
Right.
And so when he's on his last sliver of health, he goes and guards the last bomb. And so you take him out, but then you have maybe 15 seconds to take out the last bomb. However, every time that I was trying to disarm the last bomb, he would put it in a new location that wasn't the other ones. So it wasn't on one of the, the cargo crates or anything like that. It was in the lower area in a spot I couldn't find. So one of them at one point he put it under a tarp, and I remember in the earlier games you could shoot the tarp out and it would open up a new area. So I was like, okay, well maybe I have to do that. So I spent the last 10 seconds trying to shoot the clips that hold the tarp down, but they didn't break, even though they broke in the early game. And so then I lost that one. And then another time he puts it on the left shelves, and for the life of me I can't find it. I tried crawling under the shelf, couldn't find it. He never puts it there again. A third time, let's see, I was doing really well, but he fell to the edge of the roof, and so I lined up with the front of him and shot him, but it automatically turns your controls whenever you get off of first person, and so I mistakenly fell off the roof. And then another time, I couldn't find the bomb in time, and then there was, I'm sure, another stupid reason, but then I finally got it. So yeah, yeah.
I'm so sorry, John.
I'm not mad about that.
So your deal was like the end of the fight, but what about like the actual getting his health down in general?
It took me a little bit to realize the best way to do it. I did have it down pat for the last bit. Basically, I would take out the first bomb, I would run at him, bang, 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 bang. He falls on the ground, shoot him in the head, and then I go do the other bomb, and then, he decides after that, not me. But the only way I could ever get him down was when he would come near me, I would just rapid fire my pistol at him till he fell over. I couldn't find a better way to do it. I guess I could have tried the claymores, but he kept dodging them. Like, he would never go the way I wanted him to after I put a claymore down. So.
Yeah, it was. I think that it took me 3 tries to do the boss fight. The first time because I was not prioritizing the new bombs he was putting down, and I think like it blew up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to handle that before I do anything else. And then the second time, I actually beat him, but it took me forever. And then we'll wait until we get to this point. But I lost because I did not. I could not remember a certain button to mash, and but thankfully I don't think it restarted me from like the beginning. I think it just sent me to like the beginning of like a dialogue, which I still like could not skip, so I had to sit there and watch like 4 minutes dialogue. But I think this was, and initially I thought this was a lot of fun, and then as the fight continued, I was like, I do not like this. And I think that part of it was I didn't have enough ammo, so I was having to wait for ammo to respawn. And yeah, you can use claymores to kind of stop him from. We need like, did we say explicitly that he rollerblades this entire thing? That's his whole thing. Is he's a fat guy who makes bombs with roller skates.
Yeah, you can't just directly shoot him. It does no damage. You have to hit him in rapid succession to make him fall from his roller skates. And then you have to shoot him in the head when he stands up to get a little damage.
It's really funny and like it's funnier now. Again, I'm months past. I agree with you on that, Kurt. But at the time, I got really frustrated just because I was like, "This is taking forever." Like the first like 2 minutes or so, fun, but then the fun wore off, and I was just getting really tired of the loop of put bomb down, wait for him to blow up, and then I was having, like I said, wait for ammo to respawn on the map to go get it, and the whole thing just took too long for me, and I think that's an issue that I have with a later boss fight as well. That like it's not, and part of me feels like I'm complaining too much as like a modern, like 20 years on modern gamer playing this. At the time, I can understand that like this is fairly maybe new and exciting, and they wanted to give you bang for your buck, and boss fights are still like a really big thing. Boss fights aren't really as big of a thing at this point, and I won't lie, my attention span isn't long enough, and that's something I felt with like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'll get into a boss fight, and if it goes on for too long, I'm like, I just want this to be over with. Like it stopped being fun to me, and it maybe I'm wrong in that, but
It's your opinion. You can have it. It's totally fair. I think it's totally okay to not handle these old games with like kids' gloves when it comes to our opinions on their designs, because I think it's okay to acknowledge like, well, this was made at this time, so like, with the controls, we can say, yeah, the controls are different, so that makes it difficult. It doesn't mean that it feels good to play, uh, like necessarily just because it's old. We have to say, but it still feels really good. Like it's kind of clunky, and like you're saying, the boss fight, it is a kind of rough boss fight. Um, I don't know if I had as much trouble as you two are describing, because like I said, it's been a while, and I just remember having good memories of how silly he is skating around like that. I think it took me a couple of tries to do it, and I had a decent amount of success with the claymores when he starts skating around really fast. Because when he's like lower on health, he starts skating just crazy fast that I couldn't even shoot him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put like claymores in the path that I could see him skating most often, um, and that helped. But we get to the end. He says he has no idea about the $30 billion ransom, and also there's one more bomb and you'll never find it. So you got to grab his rollerblade ankles and pull him off of the bomb so you can disarm it. I thought that was a neat touch because I was panicking for a minute, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And then I remembered I could drag bodies. Was that the button you were having trouble with, Ryder?
yeah. I like initially I was like, where is it? Where is it? And then I remembered, oh, you can move bodies, and the timer was down to like, you know, 9 seconds or something like that, and I couldn't remember the button, and I eventually got the button and like drug his body off of the bomb, and I had like 2 seconds left, and it wasn't enough to actually disarm it at that point. Which I will say that's where like most of I think my frustration came from at that point was I think it had been bubbling up for a while when we played the first portion of this. I think I told you guys, the controls just drove me crazy, and that was like
Yeah.
that, and like the backtracking just made me very frustrated. This was like the moment where like all of my frustration kind of built up to the pinnacle of like I don't like this anymore. And I ultimately I did enjoy this, and I will say that time has washed away a lot of that frustration. But most of my issues with this game, the boss fight and everything else, it is like every time I would get into enjoying it, I would be confronted with some dumb control issue.
Yeah.
It would make me be like, I don't want to play this right now. I want to stop and go do something else. And like I made mention earlier, the cartwheel in this fight, trying to shoot him in third person, you would miss consistently. So you'd have to go into first person, which is just always a pain. And like also, if you're trying to shoot enemies outside of a ball, there's no good way to like get out of first person view once you start, other than just shooting. And
I was wondering that.
um,
Yeah.
I think there is like a way you can kind of do it, but it's not. You have to like change weapons, anyways. There's just a lot of like clunkiness, and like I said, it kind of came to a head here.
That's totally fair. But we did
But we
all
did it.
defeat him. And so with him down, that is one. I was gonna say 1/3, but I guess Ocelot might be part of Dead Cell. It's hard to say for sure. But
There's
one
no
of our
number.
one of our three new antagonists have been defeated. So we just have to worry about Vamp and Fortune as far as Dead Cell goes for now. Um, we didn't talk about this earlier, but Raiden got a call from someone who called himself Deep Throat, which is a reference to the character who did the same thing in the first game, which is a reference to Watergate. Um, but it seems like when Raiden recognizes that that is an alias that was used in the Shadow Moses Island incident, he's like, "Oh, never mind. My name is Mr. X." It's like you can't just. Like, he already knows that you were involved in that because you used that name.
It's kind of
Um,
like the Snake. No, I'm
Mhm.
riding.
yeah, just name changing everywhere. But when this is where Raiden meets Mr. X, who we, having played the first game, recognize as Gray Fox, who was a yes, Ryder.
Cyborg Ninja.
You gave me a look.
I don't know. I really don't know because again, there's so much that's like it's kind of up in the air, and I feel the confusion of Raiden in this moment because Raiden asked, "So are you Mr. X?" And I don't know. The answer you get, I don't think is conclusive enough for me to be like, yeah, because he kind of laughs. He goes, "I suppose you could say that, or you can
Well,
call me that if you want, or something." And I was like, I don't know.
Okay,
So
so you're saying so you're agreeing that that definitely is Gray Fox, but you're not sure if that was the guy that called.
Mr. X? Yes, exactly.
oh, okay.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Never. No, you covered it. You covered what I was gonna say.
Okay, I was gonna say in the original game, Deep Throat was Gray Fox, and so that leads me to believe that it is the same character. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's just like the laugh, like the voice acting, and like I might have just over read that. But again, I was so into the I don't know who to trust and who's like half lying or if they're listening in on each other's conversations at this point. And like, why would you introduce yourself as Mr. X like 2 minutes prior and then come show you? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fair. But regardless, we have Gray Fox now. He's a cybernetic ninja guy. He cut off Revolver Ocelot's arm in the first game, and that was super cool. He also helps in the boss fight with Liquid and the Metal Gear. Doesn't he die in that boss fight?
Well,
Maybe.
I don't like John said. This is
it
Days
does
of Our
come
Lives.
up. It,
Come back.
it does come up in one of the cutscenes where one of the bad guys says, "I thought you were dead."
Yeah, that is true.
So
Yeah.
Like right after this. I think right after this, it's Revolver Ocelot says that actually.
I double checked. You're right. Yeah, he definitely dies in that boss fight. So he's also back, just like Snake is also back, even though he presumably died on the tanker. Ocelot's back, even though he lost an arm, and just everybody's back. Vamp is back,
Well,
even though he took a bullet to the brain.
and I feel like again, there's something more going on there because whenever Raiden meets him, his like mask is kind of like shimmering and like it almost shows something underneath. And I feel like all this is like it's over the top meta dialogue on like nothing is how it seems, and like even the ninja who never shows his face might not even really be who he's claiming to be because the mask is kind of like flickering on and off. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
Is is there a chance that all of this is a simulation? I know, simulation theory. That's a big brain move, but I don't know. I don't feel like that would be a satisfying end to the game if that is the case. But just they put so much emphasis on ride-ins, VR training.
are you
I
riding?
don't know.
this is all a simulation.
Your walls start to dematerialize, and you're just in an empty room by yourself.
I don't. I've been thinking that not that I don't think it would go deep into it because I do think that narratively very unsatisfying. But I do feel like his brain is extremely compromised because of, like you said earlier, the simulations, and I feel like I don't know, his brain is not completely being honest with itself about what he's seeing and experiencing. So
Yeah, so maybe not everything's a simulation, but his brain is simulating parts of things that are happening in the world he's
yeah,
actually in. Interesting. Um, Gray Fox gives us a new mission. He says he gives us a terrorist uniform, Says, "Hey, get changed. I need you to go find one of the hostages. He's a Secret Service agent. His name is, I always read it as Ames, but I'm pretty sure it's just Ames.
Ames.
Hmm.
Yeah, his name is Ames. Um, he knows where the president is, so I need you to go there and find that information." He says you'll need to procure a AK from the terrorist because all the guards that are inside the room are going to have that weapon, so you need to blend in. You will need to get past a retinal scan to be able to get inside, even if you are in uniform. And you'll also need to find a directional microphone because all the hostages are going to be like bound and gagged, and so the only way to know which one to try to talk to is by using the microphone to find which one has a pacemaker
Hmm.
and listen for the clicking sound.
This is the type of stuff I love in these games.
Yeah.
The like more than anything, like that type of stuff. I don't know. It's just so weird and like off
Yeah.
the handle. I don't know. It's a lot of fun doing listening to people's heartbeats. Like
We'll talk
Maybe
about that in
you're
a
a vamp
second.
too.
Do it.
Maybe
Maybe
he's a
so.
vamp as well.
it made me quite hungry actually.
So I don't remember if I found it on my own or I had to look it up, but they don't give you any clue about where the AK is. So you just kind of have to explore if you hadn't already found it, and it's in the Strut F warehouse,
Which is
is
right
one
by
of
the
bigger-
entrance.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I remember wandering around for a long time just trying to find it before eventually stumbling upon it.
I also had to look around a lot. It's not again. Not really an issue with the game. I feel like these games
Well, yeah,
from the
because
time period allow themselves to be confusing, so it gives you more replay value, more time to like mess around with it. But it is frustrating if you're trying to like power through in a hurry and you're like, I don't know, I'm tired of going back and forth to the last two struts.
and the areas didn't really change at all between all of this. So just you know, they all have a marker on them to tell you what security level they are, and he gives you a level
Mhm.
2 security card. So you know it's going to be in one of those, but
Hmm.
so if you
That's how it is.
write those down somewhere, gotta hunt it out.
Okay. Because I was thinking, like, did they just spawn it for the first time after this cutscene? But no, he gives you the security card, so you can access
Yeah, he
the
gives
new
you level
location.
2.
You also end up running into, you go to B2, which I think is in like the central area of Shell 1 on your way down to
Hmm.
talk to Ames. There's a parrot in there.
Yes, there is.
Every time I walked past the parrot, the camera would stop and zoom in on it, and I never really understood why it was doing that.
It was alerting you to something hidden on top of one of the lockers. However, I couldn't figure out how to get on the top of the lockers to get the item. Because I found the item by mistake opening the lockers to look for supplies. I seen something spinning up there, but I couldn't figure out how to get on top of the lockers to get the item. But when I walked around close to the bird to get the item we needed from here, the bird was like, top of locker. And then it would say some rambling stuff, and then it was the top of locker.
Didn't they explain that there was like some training exercise, like military related or something like that? I thought I heard
I mean,
something at some
probably.
point that like they were teaching it to like repeat things that people were saying for like espionage reasons or something. I don't. Maybe I'm making it up.
I mean, they probably did that, and I'm sure there's some like really fun secrets with it. Like, if you do a codec call near it, it'll probably repeat some of the stuff that it hears, or
Oh, I didn't think
or
of that.
maybe
That's funny.
or maybe later we encounter it and it repeats part of a plan that the bad guys were talking about. Like, I don't know, but I'm sure there's something to it. I just didn't encounter anything of substance um, whenever I was running around past it. I was just curious. Um, we are now. Oh, to get past the obstacle scan, we had to knock a guard out, hold his face up to the scanner,
Fun
not let us
fact:
through.
that takes a long time when you forget how to do a chokehold. Even at
Yes.
one point, I got a codec call that was like, "You need to chokehold. Go up behind him without a gun equipped and click the action button." Yeah,
I feel like. Oh, go ahead.
No,
that was
you're
it.
good.
I was just say this is a consistent issue, but specifically with controls in this game. Yes, I think they're clunky, but this isn't necessarily a clunky control issue. I think it's an issue that we've had repeatedly when we play these actual older backlog games of ours. is we can't go pull a manual that used to be in the front of your PS2,
Yeah.
case and flip through and go like, okay, it's right in here. And that's actually a lost art of video games that I kind of
Mhm.
miss. There used to be additional maps, trivia information about the game,
The
background info on like characters, controls.
the pause menu for this game does have a manual. I did not open it because I went and checked under controls for what I was looking for because there is a control section and it wasn't under there. It might have been in the manual, but I wasn't gonna go read through the manual. But this because I'm playing the version on Steam that has it's the combined games. So
Mhm.
it does have a manual in it, but I didn't open it to see if it would have been like the original, just put it into like a PDF or something.
Yeah.
And then we find the directional microphone. I
Mhm.
didn't write anything specific about that, so I guess we kind of just
It's just
find it,
right
not
by
a
the
big deal.
bird. Yeah, it's just by the bird.
Oh, okay. It took me far longer than I think it was supposed to find Ames, even with the directional microphone. Like I made at least 3 laps around that room with every hostage just sitting on them until the guards would get suspicious. Then I'd have to, be normal for a second, and then I'd run back to where I was and hold up the directional microphone. It took a long time.
I got pretty lucky with mine because when I entered the room, the guard was like right where you entered. So I ran around to the back corner and I started doing it, and I started hearing some faint heartbeat in a certain direction, and so I just went that way. It could have just been everyone makes a heartbeat noise and I just didn't notice, but I I got it was like the first few that I checked. It was happened to be him.
Nice.
It didn't take me long either. I will say I almost picked the wrong person at one point, and I think it's intentional that they have. I know it's intentional actually because they have some people with fast heartbeats, some with
Mm-hmm.
slow, some with
Hmm.
like slightly irregular heartbeats too. You can hear like arrhythmia in their heart, and you're like, bro, you need to go to a cardiologist. But I almost picked one of those that had like an irregular heartbeat,
But no clicking,
and
right?
I was like, huh?
But no clicking. They didn't have the clicking.
Yeah, exactly. But I was like, let me double check because I don't want to have to redo anything because you never know how far back you're gonna have to go if you
Right.
mess up. And you don't know if it's gonna be like, can I escape from this, or is it gonna be a full like game over screen? So I ended up waiting like 2 or 3 more people, and then I found him. But yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Ocelot's like on the other side of the glass,
Mm-hmm.
kind of monitoring the room while this is happening. So whenever you know, pull the tape off of
Games.
Ames, Ocelot's just listening in. Like he can hear everything you're talking about
He's
until
he's watching you on
Ames.
video camera, security camera.
Yeah, he's watching and eavesdropping the conversation, and then Ames is like, "Let's switch to nanotechnology," and then they just have a conversation in the codec that no one else can hear. I don't. Who knows how that works? But
I was actually gonna complain about that. Not
okay.
not even necessarily like the okay, yeah. I mean that's kind of dumb. I mean, really, what it amounts to me is because we saw the same thing earlier with it might have happened with Snake and Raiden as well, or Pliskin, my bad, and Raiden as well. But I know specifically with Gray Fox and Raiden, it happens where they're
Mm-hmm.
like standing right there in front of each other, and then they cut to a codex call, and
Yeah.
it's definitely them trying to save on animation
Mhm.
time, money, effort, and also probably storage space as well, not having to have
Yeah.
fully animated 3D cutscenes. You can just have floating heads. But it did feel kind of goofy in this scene specifically because near the end of it, Ames is like, "Ocelot's coming. Let's stop." And then, I mean, I guess they're just sitting there making like prolonged eye contact over the course of this like 6 minute, conversation.
Yeah.
It just that did actually pull me out more than even Fat Man roller skating or Vamp. The I understand. It's just a little odd.
Yeah, for sure. But Ames reveals he's like, I don't work for the Secret Service. I work for the Lali Le Lulo.
The Wawa
Spelled it right this
Weewa.
time. The
Wow, you.
the first video I called it the Lali Lilo Lu. I apologize. It is in fact the Lali Le Lulo.
Of course.
Forgive me,
The
everybody.
Wawa Weewa.
The video 3, you're going to realize you still did it wrong.
Yeah, I am. Like, I'd like to formally apologize to everybody. um, he said, and we still have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Ames seem. I got the impression that Ames seems to think that Raiden is also part of this group.
Yeah, that was
Just the
weird.
way he was talking with him was like, "What do you mean they didn't tell you this part?" And let's see, Ocelot says something about this in the first section. I don't remember the context. Um, Sorry, I know this isn't good radio.
Yeah,
No, you're
I
good.
don't. I
I'm
didn't
sitting here
remember him
racking my
mentioning it.
brain.
It's
Oh,
okay. Here it
it's
is.
been a while.
Ocelot betrays Gurlukovich and steals the Metal Gear Ray. This is in the tanker section. The Marine Commandant says, "Lale Lulu," that's what I've written, when he sees Ocelot. So,
Some
Ames,
type of code word. I don't know.
Ames is, or is it a group?
I
Like,
thought it was an
is
organization because it was
Is
like
Ames
they sent
working
me.
with Ocelot? Has Ocelot betrayed Lale Lulu, La 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 La, in
La la
favor
la
of
la
Dead
la.
Cell? Um, I don't know.
I don't.
Anyway.
I don't know either. I'm sure that we'll get to part three and it still won't make any sense. We'll chalk it up to us taking a year to finish the game, and in reality, it's just probably way over our heads. And
Yeah.
But for now, we can have the optimism that, like, oh, they'll explain it all in part three. It'll
Yeah,
be
of
fine.
course. Yeah, yeah.
He says that the terrorists have the president, and they're trying to get like effectively the nuclear codes or like the ability to launch a nuclear weapon. But they're in a briefcase. The only way to open the briefcase is with the president's biometrics and then
And
Ames
willingness.
and willingness. And I think they're like almost ready to launch it. And so Ames is like, yeah, the president's working with them. I don't know what that means for the story that the president's doing that. But
it does come up
y'all,
multiple times. The $30 billion ransom, like
yeah,
even Pliskin, like during like conversation right before this, Pliskin and Raiden are talking, and he mentions the $30 billion ransom. And Pliskin's like, "Bro, what are you talking about?
hmm
No ransom."
yeah. And Ames says that there is no ransom. Like he literally
Yeah.
confirms that in this conversation. He says the goal has always been an aerial nuclear strike. So they're not trying to bomb a specific hit the ground, blow a city up. They're gonna launch it over New York City, and it exploding in the air will somehow, I don't know if this is real science or not, will somehow, it is okay, it will disrupt and destroy like all of the electronics in Manhattan effectively, and they want to turn Manhattan into a liberated space that they control. That's why the group is also new name, the Sons of Liberties, which is the subtitle of the game. Is that Dead Cells? Is that Lale Lilalu? Is that a third organization that some people from both groups are involved in? Unclear at the moment.
Yeah, it's they call it an EMMA, but it's a nuclear EMP. It's like the actual idea, but I think we talked about it last time about some other context, but November 2001 terrorist attack in New York. I don't know. I'm not going to say it's prophetic in any way because New York has always been kind of the center of these types of stories, but
Right.
the timing is definitely crazy. And there are some other things I'm sure that will come up later where I'll be like, oh, okay, this is depressing because of some of his predictions about the world.
For sure.
And one thing also mentioned is that we tell Ames that a hostage has been killed, and he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "There's no what? There's no hostage that's been killed." So we're just getting a lot of conflicting
Another
information.
30 seconds though, and then
Yeah. But we did. Yeah, I was gonna say that was one thing that came up. They said that every hour, whatever console the briefcase has in it has to be re-authenticated by the president, or it will shut itself off and they can't launch anything from the console. So they said that they're planning to kill the president within the next hour, or once that he re-authenticates it. And then didn't they also state that the Metal Gear is somehow attached to this briefcase as well, or the nuclear launch?
I think
This
this facility was built to sort of house and test the Metal Gear and its nuclear capabilities. I don't remember if that's specifically referred to with the briefcase or not.
They stated it in one of the cutscenes for this section that Metal Gear was tied to the briefcase as well, and the authentication was tied to that.
So it could be that the Metal Gear was launching the nuke. Maybe
I think that was the premise. Yes,
that makes sense. By the way, we know who the president is at this point, right?
Yeah, they said his name. I just can't remember it.
Because, well, even at the end of Metal Gear Solid 1, Ocelot, there's a phone call with Ocelot, and he's talking to Solidus Snake. And he says, "Okay, Mr. President." So this whole time we're kind of dealing with this, and I'm like, okay, but the president is a bad guy? Question mark. And it now aims at saying he's working with the terrorists, and
yeah, they
guys,
said.
I'm gonna say it. This plot is kind of complicated.
They said his name in the first scene whenever you're entering this facility, because I was watching the president's name, yeah, his real name or his public name. If he's got a secret one, I don't know that, but they did say his name in the opening cutscene. I just can't remember what it was because I was watching a recap right before we started recording.
They say James Johnson.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So we'll see.
This comes up in this scene, but it happens multiple times earlier, and I meant to bring this up. So when the antagonist, plural, meet Pliskin, at multiple points they recognize him, seemingly understand who he is. But Raiden consistently refers to Snake and seems to have no clue who Pliskin is. And for someone who, Raiden has gone through training simulations, literally gone through the Shadow Moses incident, in, walking through Snake's shoes, you would think he would have some sort of recognition there. And you could argue maybe like, oh, covert ops, like, they don't keep pictures of this guy around, that type of thing. But he seemingly just doesn't have any clue what he looks like. He knows that he's a bad guy. Mm-hmm. Thinks he is. And there's multiple points where like Snake is referred to as like being like the antagonist here. Snake is here. Snake is alive. Blah blah blah. And I think that in this scene specifically, when you're using like the microphone to listen in, like Revolver Ocelot, and I believe Solidus Snake is in there as well. So maybe it's Ames refers to him as there's Snake right there, and Raiden doesn't seem to understand that the Snake from Shadow Moses is not the man that he's looking at right now. Like there's like some sort of like disconnect there.
Mm-hmm. That conversation he had with Ocelot, that's interesting because we see Solidus later. He's the one that's in the Harrier in that boss fight, and so we'll talk about that in a second. I was rewatching the cutscenes last night to prepare for the recording, and the guy that Ocelot is having a conversation with doesn't sound the same as Solidus does in the cutscene. The guy that Ocelot's talking to has like a British kind of accent. And so I could be mistaken, and it could be the same character, and I just kind of misheard how they sound. But the only British accent we know in the series so far is Liquid, who was the final boss, a clone of Solid Snake from the first game.
Who died.
Who not only died, they also... his arm is put onto Ocelot, and Ocelot talks to this new person who's pretending to be Solid Snake and says, "Liquid's arm is really bugging me a lot," which would be a weird thing to say if that was Liquid he was talking to. And then also later on, whenever Snake reveals who he is to Raiden, he talks about how, oh yeah, we faked my death by procuring Liquid's body, and then they thought it was my body because we're genetically identical. So like, lots of reasons to assume that Liquid is actually dead. So is this Solidus? Is this a different character with a British accent? Is this a clone of Liquid who's a clone of a clone?
Liquidus.
I'm very curious. Liquidus. You know what? Honestly,
where's Gaseous?
I was gonna say Gas and Gaseous are gonna be in the next one. Yeah.
Plasma Snake. That's awesome.
MGS6, if that
Lasius.
ever come around. Plasma Snake. Um, but anyway, Ocelot's talking to someone claiming to be Solid Snake. Um, Olga is also there, who is the daughter of Gerlukovich, who was the first boss of the game that Snake fought on the tanker. Presumably is a mother now because she was pregnant during that fight. I remember that being a detail because Gerlukovich was like, "You get off the ship now. It's too dangerous and
Yeah.
precious cargo." And she was like, "Whatever, Dad. You can't tell me what to do." They discussed how Fat Man betrayed them because apparently blowing everything up was not, in fact, part of the plan, and that they're aware of an intruder. It's unclear if that's Raiden or if it's Pliskin. Both, I guess it could be.
This is when they mention the sneaking suit.
Yeah, and then they say the sneaking suit.
You'd know more about those sneaking suits than I do. Is a quote from that conversation.
So funny. They say they'll need to keep the president alive for at least another hour to activate his briefcase, which they are now calling the black box. And then Olga is complaining to Ocelot about how things are going, about her position, and how everything's not good. And then, again, the guy who's pretending to be Snake is like, I don't think either of you have any room to complain because if I wasn't here taking care of you, you'd both be dead in a ditch somewhere. So, whoever this British, potentially liquid-ish character is, liquid-ish Snake,
Liquid-ish.
is has a lot of sway and a lot of power in what's going on right now. Let's see. Ocelot approaches Raiden. Ames acts betrayed by Ocelot. So again, I think they were both working for the La
La Land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ames has a heart attack, and that made me like kind of like shoot up out of my chair because I was like, "Is this Fox die?" Which was the disease from the first game that gave everyone heart attacks and then they died.
But he's got their death note.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so, I don't know, I just feel like if in the first game, one of the core plot devices was the characters get sick and die if this is a disease from a heart attack, it seems like there are lots of ways you could have killed this character besides a heart attack if you didn't want those. Now, I'm not saying he had Fox die, but it like there's a parallel there.
I mean, he did have a gun pointed to his head at the same time, so
I guess, and he had a pacemaker. You're right, John. Probably his natural causes.
Just coincidental, you know.
I don't know. I feel like
purple. The screen flashed purple when he had the heart attack.
it was just supposed to exaggerate the pain he was feeling.
Okay. Of course, yeah.
Let's go like somewhere in between and say that there was like a crazy Metal Gear Solid element of it, and that's that Revolver Ocelot can now control like electricity with his brain, and he just turned off the dude's pacemaker, and that's all it took.
Honestly, I would buy if he turned off the pacemaker. He just like clicked a button. Like that would honestly be kind of terrible, but kind of funny. It's at this point that Raiden gets unmasked. And then he has like 30 guns pointed at him, but he's the protagonist. He's not going anywhere. Gray Fox jumps down from the ceiling, almost cuts Ocelot's arm off again in basically the exact same way he did the first time. But Ocelot dodges out of the way. Gray Fox stays behind to fight, and Raiden flees. And this is when he calls the Colonel, and it's just like, "You tell me what's happening right now, because nothing is adding up." And the Colonel says, "There's no time. You gotta save the president." And Ryan's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. My bad." It just continues on his mission. Kodak calls with Rose and Jack. We already talked about that. So this brings us to the connector bridge between Shell 1 and 2. So we're leaving Shell 1, heading in the direction of Shell 2, because that is where the president supposedly is being kept right now, and our goal is still to rescue him. The bridge is covered with Simtex. John, what is Simtex?
Explosives.
Yeah, I had to write that in parentheses because I knew that I would forget.
That's it.
Aren't they like specifically like sticky explosive?
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, they're like bombs that they just stick to different surfaces to make them work. All right. So we're on the bridge. We got to take out these Simtex explosives. Raise your hand if you didn't have a sniper rifle yet, because I
I don't
definitely
remember.
did not have the sniper rifle yet. You're supposed to go back and explore with the key cards you get and find it. So I'm out there with my pistol, shooting all the way across the bridge, and like,
It's in
Yeah.
that warehouse F again.
yeah, and I got every single one with just the pistol, except way farther back than every single other one. There's one of the explosives is on a drone that is flying in circles. And I tried. I went through like clips and clips of ammo, and I was like, "There's got to be a sniper rifle somewhere because this is ridiculous." And so I did eventually find it. But John,
I
it
did
seems
the
like you
same
had the
thing.
sniper rifle, no problem.
Yeah, well, I was in Warehouse F a lot. That's actually where I stopped playing at and started again. So I spent a lot of time in there trying to remember the controls whenever I
Mm-hmm.
started playing again. And so I remembered all the locked doors in there. I remembered the twos and the threes in there. And then that room with the explosions in it had another gun in it when I accidentally exploded myself. So I mistakenly found that one.
Nice.
So yeah, luckily I didn't have any trouble finding those.
The the way they were hidden was kind of fun
Mm-hmm.
because some of the bombs were just obvious places. You just gotta see them and shoot them. But then one of them is behind a flag that is flapping.
Yeah,
And
that
by
one
the way,
was fun.
the flag says the Sons of Liberty on it and has like their logo. So they're like taking over this base, or maybe the base was for them the whole time. Um, and so you have to like shoot through the flag to hit that one. The only one that I thought was
But
really
it changes
annoying,
direction.
Oh,
the
does it?
flag does.
Never
You
saw
kind of
the
reveal
Yeah.
flag.
where it is. Oh,
If
that's
if
cool.
you wait long enough, like the wind will like die, and then it'll like come back and like switch direction.
Oh,
So
I
Oh,
love that.
it's pretty
That's
cool.
really cool. The only Simtex that I was annoyed with was there's one when you walk out directly behind you, basically above the
oh,
door that you come through, and I was probably there for a good 20 minutes just scanning like with a sniper rifle every single inch of the bridge in front of me, and I think I eventually just had to look up. I was like, oh, it's just turn around and it's literally right there.
I mistakenly seen that.
Called a skill, John. You can own it. It's okay.
I'm guessing the idea is you're supposed to catch it on like the way out. Like if you're like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing, and you walk out and you're like, oh,
But the thing is, I could be wrong, but I don't think you can see it from the top down view.
yeah, you're right
I
because you,
think
you
you
can
only
only
see
see
if
it
you go
through
into
the
first
first
person.
person. Yeah,
Yeah. So that one was dirty. I I did like how hard to aim the sniper rifle was.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find
Drugs.
Tanzamin is how I think it's pronounced, and you can take that as like a nerve calming drug, and that doesn't make it perfect, but it really smooths out your aim, and I think that's really clever. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really like the idea of using different medicines for different like practical purposes in a game besides just like Resident Evil style. Oh, my arm has been chopped off. Let's pour some medicine on top and let that grow back real quick. This is a little
staple it.
more,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, 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 um. After you disable all the Simtex, Pliskin calls Raiden to discuss the hostages. Pliskin has stolen one of the enemy Kazatkas, which I believe is a helicopter, if I remember correctly. And he says, hey, we're going to need to make 2 trips because there are 30-ish hostages. So we'll make 2 trips to rescue all of them, get them out of here. And then Pliskin introduces Raiden to Otacon before Pliskin and Otacon start taking on fire. So the call gets interrupted. So Joe is back, everybody. He looks a little bit less like Joe in this game. They added some more polygons, and the resemblance isn't quite as uncanny. But I still like to think that Joe's our Otacon.
Yes.
Raiden and Colonel have yet another discussion where Raiden demands answers. Rose, this is where Pliskin is revealed to be Solid Snake. Rose reveals that Snake and Otacon, after after the Shadow Moses Island event, they went rogue and became terrorists who basically just went worldwide, destroying Metal Gear projects. So they're the terrorists for destroying nuclear weapons. Someone stop them, you know? I don't like that I'm the only one who seems to be anti-nuclear war here, but you know, you guys hold your tongues. It's okay.
Well, I was in agreement. They're like, oh, the
Okay.
terrorists.
Wait till you play Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. It'll make you think nukes are actually cool again.
Is that okay? This side note. I know there's one, there's two, there's three. It's Peace Walker, and then four is Guns of the Patriots. Is Peace Walker like a
Phantom
side
Pain
game?
or
Is it
something.
part of the main canon?
Okay. All right. So everybody.
Buckle up.
All right. So I'm not going to go full into it, but I'm going to say this is one of the things that really frustrates me about this series, and I don't know enough about politics to blame like one person or the other, but thankfully most of this has been resolved because of the new Metal Gear Solid collections that have been released and are going to be released. But the but I'm back. The series goes 1, 2, 3, right? 4, but the timeline's already thrown off. So really, in
Right.
sequence, it's 1, 2, or like right after the others. 3 is a prequel to everything, right?
Right.
And 3 is actually the earliest in the timeline. 4 is the last in the timeline, and then you have Peace Walker, which released on the PSP, and seems like a spin-off title. It seems inconsequential because of the naming convention and the fact that it was released exclusively on a handheld.
Mhm.
It's really it's Metal Gear Solid 5, and the game that we know is Metal Gear Solid 5 is really Metal Gear Solid 6.
Okay.
It is Peace Walker is not something that you can skip. Like the story is so. If you went from playing like Metal Gear Solid 3 into Metal Gear Solid 5, you'd have like I have no clue what's going on. Like why is this character like changed into this person? Like what there's like a military element here that it was never in the other, and it's because Peace Walker for one reason or another was released on PSP and was not given because it was released on PSP was not given the main like designation of like a 5.
Yeah.
And so when the Phantom Pain came out, they couldn't call it 6, so they had to call it 5. It's really weird. And then there's Ground Zeroes, which is really just 5 Part A.
Prequel to 5.
Yeah, which you have to play too. I don't know. It gets really confusing, but
This sounds a lot like Kingdom Hearts, and people like to complain about Kingdom Hearts more than they do Metal Gear, and I'm just saying that might not be fair. Because, yeah, Kingdom Hearts is the exact same way, but got it. So that means we don't have 3 more games to play in the series. It sounds like we have 5 more games to play in the series. 9 more games.
yeah, actually probably more than that if you want to get into
Let's
it.
play, there's one on Game Boy Color that's called, like, Project Babylon or something. Let's go play that one next. That'll be fun.
Probably like a real-time strategy game or like a turn-based strategy game or something with like the
That
Metal
actually
Gears on
sounds
the
really
map.
cool. I want to play a turn-based strategy game where I get to play as Dead Cell. That sounds fun. Back to Metal Gear Solid 2. Snake and Otacon are terrorists. They're blowing up Metal Gears. Raiden defends Snake because he says what Snake did on Shadow Moses required more than, quote, training or a sense of duty. And he believes that Snake must have, again, quote, pure will backed up by courage or ideals, which is not something that a terrorist has, is his argument there. Bye, Ryder.
I'm always
back.
here. I just
You're good.
sometimes my face just gets stuck.
You're good. Welcome back, John. Don't feel like you have to edit all
I
of that
won't.
out. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. The Colonel and Rose counter by saying that Snake is dead now, so neither Pliskin nor Icon could actually be Snake, emphasizing that Snake's body was recovered in the tanker incident. And then Raiden also, this is where he says this is a sneaking mission, and that's just really funny to me. So, Otacon has gone to see Snake as like, no, he's a hero, and you guys are saying he's a terrorist. So now I don't trust you guys as much. And even Rose, who again seemed to be genuine on his side, is like, no, Raiden, you're wrong about this. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. Harrier?
Harrier.
Let's do it. So, Snake and Otacon, they have the Kazatka. They're on their way to rescue civilians when they are interrupted by Solidus Snake. For the ease of discussing these characters, I'm just going to refer to him as Solidus, who is one of Solid Snake's brothers, presumably another clone like Liquid was. He can move extremely fast and appears to be able to increase his muscle mass at will. He, like, bulked up. Just, I don't know, that was really gross. He declares himself to be, quote, the boss to surpass Big Boss himself. John, who do you think Big Boss is?
Giovanni.
Okay. I am vaguely aware of Big Boss and his history. I'm not going to talk about it here, but just the idea, like you said, of playing Metal Gear Solid 1, which is technically a sequel to the NES games, and then just jumping into 2, there is basically zero context for what this line could mean at this point, which I think is humorous.
I think Big Boss makes an appearance in Metal Gear Solid 1, right?
Does he? They might mention him, but I don't think he is in the game.
Maybe he doesn't make a direct appearance. I can't remember, honestly.
He certainly does not make a direct appearance. I won't say why, because again, I don't want to spoil everything, but anyway. He says, I'm going to be the big boss to surpass Big Boss, and then Solid Snake is like, that's a lie. I think this is when he reveals that he's Snake. I think up to this point, it's been Pliskin and Otacon, and now it's like, no, I'm Solid Snake and Otacon. I don't know. Maybe not, because they were arguing about Snake a second ago. Snake tells Solidus to, quote, stop impersonating him. Not me. He doesn't say me. He says him. So Solidus is impersonating someone else. I guess it could be Big Boss. Could be Liquid.
I thought it was Liquid.
Anybody.
My interpretation was Big Boss, like, stop trying to be like him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, of course, me interpreting from context I know about the NES game before this. So,
but John, you're saying you think it's Liquid, and I think that's that's a reasonable read with the amount of context that these two games provide you. Snake is not playing around. He has a missile launcher and he fires directly at Solidus, which doesn't seem to injure him at all. I guess he bulked up too much for that, but it does knock him off the bridge, and so like, whoo, he's in the ocean. He's gonna drown now.
He goes, did I get him?
And then and then suddenly a plane rises up, and he's just standing on top of the plane. It's like, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened. Vamp is driving the plane, so he's good to go. And that leads to the boss fight where Snake and Otacon are providing kind of cover fire in the Kazatka, or Kazatka, whatever it's called.
Kazakhstan.
And then Solidus and Vamp are in the Harrier jet flying around and shooting at you while you're just poor little Raiden trying to do a sneaking mission. Luckily, Snake at least gives you a rocket launcher. I had a really good time with this boss fight. I thought it was really, really fun.
I did not die from this one.
There you go.
First try.
No, I also did not die, but I did not have a great time. I didn't dislike it. It felt very repetitive to me.
It was a little long. I'll agree with that.
So I actually ended up mistakenly figuring out a cool trick. I just stayed on the staircase the whole time. Except for
that's smart.
Whenever he was on the one side shooting closest to the staircase, I would have to go like hide in the lower area. Rather than that, I just stayed on the staircase the whole time. It was kind of funny because he would be on the far side shooting at me, but if you stand like right when the stairs start going down, his bullets shooting the top area don't hit you, but maybe once every little bit, and then the ones at the bottom don't hit you at all. So
that's really funny.
So I just stood there until I heard the plane go, We'll help you out or something like that, and then I would run up, missile launcher, pew, pew, and then rinse and repeat.
Interesting.
I wasn't even letting the missile launcher lock on either when he was so close. I would just aim it in really fast and shoot it, and most of the time it would still hit.
Oh, like while he was like close shooting, you were. That's cool.
Yeah.
I did not find the safe haven on the stairs, and so I was always just in, kind of dodging the bullets mode whenever those were happening. So I would use the lock on while it was flying around. It took me a little bit to figure out how the lock on mechanism worked.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it was not well designed, it's just that it wasn't the way those kind of weapons usually work in modern games now. So it just took me a minute. But I really liked having to like go between the multiple layers of the bridge to dodge attacks. And I mean, you're shooting missiles at a jet. That's just a cool boss fight. I don't have anything else I can add about that, I guess.
Yeah.
After the boss fight, Solidus loses an eye. So
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna stop pretending anymore anytime soon. But Solidus loses an eye, and then the Metal Gear Ray leaps out of the water and launches bombs that detonate just all over the shell. So again, it's going to be even more damage now. One of those bombs hits the Kazatka, so Snake and Otacon are forced to kind of flee to make some repairs. And then
Doesn't the Metal Gear also like bite into the Harrier as well? Like it catches it from falling?
I think you might be right.
Cool enough, so I hope that happened.
I'm pretty sure it did, because that's when Vamp jumps out of it.
Yeah, so Vamp leaves Solidus alone in the ship, and this is when he leaps onto the ocean, flash runs all the way up to like the side of the shell, and I was like, oh, he's gonna jump now. He does not jump now. He then ascends completely vertically and sprints up the side of one of the like pillars of the shell.
And everyone's just watching him do that, and I think Raiden goes, "Is he running on water?"
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
Yeah, I thought so.
Like he doesn't. There's not a boss fight with him again. He doesn't fight Raiden.
Just runs off for now.
He just leaves. So
He
I
got
guess
another
we'll deal
phone call.
with him.
I really hope we never really see him again, and
He
that
just left.
he's gone.
And that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that would be funny.
All right, I'm on my last page, boys.
But
Go
go ahead.
for it.
I was gonna say the Metal Gear, I remember, puts it in this jaws, but it shows the guy with it holding his eye, but then it jumps underwater and swims away, and I'm like, wouldn't he just drown? Like, because clearly it has a hole in it.
That's fine.
Okay, maybe he climbed in the Metal Gear. Yeah.
He climbed in. It's fine.
I remember thinking like, "You're gonna drown him? Like, what are you trying to do?" Like, I understand that like they just had to have him get out of the scene, and that was their way of being like, let's just remove him from this context so we can move the story forward. But I thought too, I was like, that was your solution? I don't know.
There's one more cutscene. It's a long cutscene, but there's one more cutscene before we finished our stopping point. Right? Everybody watch the cutscene?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So Snake and Otacon say that they're part of an anti-Metal Gear unit that they call Philanthropy, which I think is a fun name. Raiden has trouble understanding why Snake would be doing this by choice. Raiden says, "This is terrible. This is horrific. I don't want to be here, but I'm here because I'm ordered to. You're here because you're choosing to be here. How could you do that?" And that's powerful stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm a sap, but just the conviction that Snake and Otacon have to like take on the responsibility that they've taken on.
I think the other side of it too is like, if you not have the moral conviction, why are you here? Like, why are you?
Yeah.
Like the other side of it.
Why are you here? Yeah.
Yeah, like if Raiden, you're being forced to do this. It's your very first gig, supposedly. You're coming to stop terrorists from detonating nukes. Like, why don't they start you on something smaller? I see both sides of that, you know.
Yeah. And I think Raiden is starting to realize like he's just being used in this. He's just a tool. And Snake even says like, we are not tools of the government. We have to follow our own convictions and not just follow our orders. Otacon has a really good quote that says their goal is we have a responsibility to the coming generations, to the world, to keep track of the mistakes we've made as a species. And to me, I mean, this is surface level, but I read that as like we made nuclear weapons, and now we are responsible for not letting nuclear weapons destroy the future of humanity and the innocent like future generations that are just kind of born into the world that they didn't have any hand in creating. And that was heavy because, Ryder, you mentioned it very early on, but like that's very pertinent to kind of what's happening now with so much nonsense and bloodshed and grandstanding about nuclear weapons. And we all do, to an extent, have a responsibility. It's just, it's hard to imagine being in the position of these fictional characters who are like, yeah, so we made a anti-nuclear weapons organization and we're fighting the good fight.
I think it's also like an interesting talking point about like this whole series that I guess we haven't really gotten too much of yet, but definitely comes up later. This is like minor spoiler territories. Also, the whole propaganda machine and the fact that, you know, things like nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction, while they do exist and they are a real risk, and maybe this game is also partially going in this direction, that they can be used, the fear and the fear mongering can be used, weaponized against public and external enemies. Um, Again, I think it's very important that this game was developed before 9/11, and then of course before the war on terror, the whole fear about weapons of mass destruction that never actually existed but being used as like a justification for war. And I do think that's part of the series here, right? Is like there's so much concern about nuclear weapons and what this group could or couldn't do, and the truth is never completely revealed to the public for one reason or another.
Yeah,
Yeah, very true.
it's really deep stuff. I don't know. That feels like a hand wavy response, but you are correct, Ryder. And that's kind of where this section ends. There's one more call where Raiden is like, Colonel, tell me everything, and Colonel's like, shut up and save the president. It doesn't matter if Snake is actually there or not. Your mission has not changed.
I also want to bring up that I might be misremembering this. Colonel dead. Didn't Colonel die in the first game? And it's revealed that he was killed by Liquid Snake, and that Liquid Snake was impersonating him and feeding false information.
No, that's not Colonel. That was a different character. That was Snake's mentor. Hold on,
I thought it was the Colonel, though.
I don't remember.
Who was Liquid?
That was like 9 years ago, right? When we did that.
It was only like 4.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
He was Master. He was impersonating McDonald Master Miller, who was Snake's mentor and friend.
You're right. All right, yeah, you're right. My bad. I'm getting I've played too many of these games in weird order, and so I'm getting characters mixed up. So we're good. I know where we're at.
Have you played this one before? I forgot.
So I played way back when. I played probably the first, like almost to the end of the tanker, and then stopped. So this is pretty much new territory for me. I mean, I do know what happens in context of larger series, just because we played stuff before and after. Yeah. I've never finished this game though, so most of this is new to me.
Cool. All right, that brings us to the end of part 2. Does anyone have any final comments about the section they want to make?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all pretty well.
Yeah, John, how are you feeling about this game overall? Like, are you enjoying it? Is it an interesting historical thing? Where are you at?
I think it's fun so far. The part that really just angered me was the rollerblading boss fight, but that was just, I feel like that was an outlier, I guess, so far. I've gotten back into the controls again, so I probably won't put off playing it for 8 months this time.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. The story is a bit confusing, but I think taking the time to talk it all out like we've been doing today's kind of helped piece it together a bit better. But also the timing between last we played it now
Yeah.
probably didn't help. So yeah,
Not
so
helpful.
far I'm still enjoying it.
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. That was Metal Gear Solid 2, Part 2. We're going to do one more part where we finish the rest of the game. And, of course, everything's going to get tied up with a neat little bow. We'll understand all the characters, and we'll know what the la 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 means.
The fa la la
I'm
la
looking
la.
forward to it. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me, and thank you for watching.